welcome from all of us at He Is Risen Ministries. Your support, by subscribing and giving a thumbs up, helps us keep creating videos that inspire and equip those seeking a deeper walk with the Lord. I want to invite you into a story you've probably heard before, but today we're going to hear it from a different angle, not from shepherds, not from angels, but from travelers, from scholars, from outsiders, from the Magi. I imagine this story as if it's being told by people who were not born into the promise, but who recognized it anyway. People who didn't grow up singing the songs, people who weren't waiting in Bethlehem, people who lived far away, studied the skies, and trusted that truth would show up somewhere beyond their comfort zone. That's where our story begins. Long before the night with the star, long before the gifts, long before Herod, we have to go back hundreds of years, back to a young man named Daniel. Daniel chapter 1 verse 17. Daniel wasn't in his homeland. He was taken captive into Babylon, stripped from everything familiar, language, culture, food, freedom. Yet Scripture says God gave Daniel knowledge and understanding of all kinds of literature and learning, including visions and dreams. Daniel was trained in the wisdom of Babylon, but he never abandoned the God of Israel. Instead, God placed him right in the middle of a system obsessed with signs, stars, calendars, and prophecy. Daniel rose in influence. Daniel chapter 2 verse 48 tells us he was made ruler over the entire province of Babylon and placed in charge of all its wise men. That matters, because the Magi were those wise men. Generation after generation, knowledge was passed down, records were kept, prophecies were studied, not just Babylonian ones, Hebrew ones. Daniel didn't just interpret dreams, he spoke of kingdoms rising and falling. He spoke of a coming ruler whose kingdom would never end. Daniel chapter 7 verse 13 speaks of one like a son of man coming with the clouds of heaven. Daniel chapter 9 speaks of a timeline, a countdown, a moment when the anointed one would appear. Think of it like this: Daniel planted a seed, not in soil, in minds. He taught people to look for God's fingerprints in history and heaven, to expect that God would act, that God would enter the world at a specific time. Fast forward centuries, empires change, Babylon falls, Persia rises, Greece follows, Rome dominates, but the records remain, the teachings remain, the expectation remains. Now picture the Magi. They are not kings with crowns. They are scholars, advisors, astronomers. Think more like a blend of scientists, philosophers, and policy analysts. They study the sky the way we study data, trends, patterns, anomalies, and one night something doesn't fit the pattern. Matthew chapter 2 verse 2. They see his star in the east, not just a pretty light, not just a random event. This was something tied to prophecy. Numbers chapter 24 verse 17 speaks of a star coming out of Jacob and a scepter rising out of Israel. The Magi knew that verse. They knew Daniel's timeline. They knew this moment mattered. This wasn't astrology. This was expectation meeting evidence. Think of it like getting a notification on your phone that confirms something you've been waiting for your whole life. Not a maybe, not a rumor, a confirmation. The kind that makes you put everything else down. So they prepare for a journey. This wasn't a casual road trip. This was months of travel, across deserts, through political borders with no GPS, no hotels, no group chat updates. Why would they go? Because truth is worth the inconvenience. Because when God moves, distance doesn't stop devotion. They bring gifts, gold, frankincense, myrrh, not random, not symbolic after the fact. Gold for a king, frankincense for worship, myrrh for burial. They didn't fully understand everything, but they knew this child was royalty, divine, and somehow connected to sacrifice. Sometimes faith looks like obeying before you fully understand. Now they arrive in Jerusalem, the capital, the obvious place to look for a king. Matthew chapter 2 verse 3 says King Herod was disturbed, and all Jerusalem with him. That tells us something. Herod knew the prophecies too, but knowledge without humility turns into fear. Herod was threatened. The Magi were curious. Same information, different hearts. Herod gathers religious leaders. They quote Micah chapter 5 verse 2. Bethlehem, the Magi leave, and the star moves, not randomly, purposefully. It stops over the place where the child was. Matthew chapter 2 verse 10 says they rejoiced with exceedingly great joy. Not hype, not noise, deep joy, the kind that settles into your bones. They enter the house, they see the child with Mary, and they bow. These are men of influence, men used to being honored, yet they kneel before a toddler because truth humbles those who truly recognize it. They offer gifts, they worship, and then something subtle but powerful happens. Matthew chapter 2 verse 12. They are warned in a dream not to return to Herod, so they go home another way. That line matters. They came seeking truth. They left changed. They didn't just take information back. They took transformation. They went home another way. That's what encountering Jesus does. Now let's bring this closer to home. The Magi were outsiders, not insiders, not religious elites, not raised in synagogue life. Yet God spoke to them in a language they understood. Stars, dreams, study. God met them where they were. That matters for you. You don't have to have all the right background. You don't have to clean yourself up first. You don't have to already know the songs. If you're searching honestly, God knows how to get your attention. Maybe for you it's a conversation, a podcast, a late night thought you can't shake. God still uses signs, not always in the sky, but in moments that make you pause. The Magi teach us that faith is a journey, not a flash. They didn't teleport to Bethlehem. They walked, they wondered, they risked, and they asked questions along the way. Gen Z lives in a world of instant answers, but deep truth still requires patience. Following Jesus isn't about having everything figured out. It's about being willing to move when God nudges. The gifts matter too. Gold says Jesus is king, not just spiritually, but over every area of life. Frankincense says he's worthy of worship, not just admiration. Myrrh reminds us that this story doesn't end in a manger, it leads to a cross. The Magi didn't see the crucifixion, but they honored the one who would walk that road. That's powerful. They gave generously. Costly gifts. Worship that doesn't cost anything usually doesn't change anything. And then there's Herod. Herod represents what happens when power refuses to surrender, when control matters more than truth. He knew where the Messiah would be born, but he didn't go. Proximity to truth doesn't guarantee transformation. The Magi traveled far and worshipped. Herod stayed close and resisted. So here's the reflection. Are you curious like the Magi or threatened like Herod? When Jesus challenges your priorities, do you lean in or pull away? The Magi remind us that Jesus doesn't belong to one culture, one generation, one personality type. He draws seekers, and when you encounter him, you don't go home the same way you came. You think differently, love differently, choose differently. The Christmas story isn't about a cozy moment frozen in time. It's about a God who stepped into history and invited the world to respond. The Magi responded with movement, with worship, with obedience. So here's the challenge. Pay attention to the signs God is placing in your life. Be willing to journey, be willing to bow, and don't be afraid to go home another way. Got a question you'd like us to explore in a future video? Drop it in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. For now, rest in the knowledge that the one who loved you first has already prepared a place for you in his eternal family, and may his voice ring clearly and powerfully this very day.